Concerns. What concerns you? I guess that's the word today. Concerns. Because we're talking some concerns for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's almost training camp season, so I'm ready. I'm ready to start talking more Eagles, more days of the week. So we're going to talk about concerns entering training camp, which is just over 3 weeks away. Sixers free agency. Well, there is no free agency going on for the Sixers. Are we concerned? What concerns do you have? Phillies dropped 2 of 3 this weekend to the Washington Nationals, the lowly Washington Nationals. Are you concerned? What concerns do you have for the Phillies now that we're out of June and into July? That's what we're talking today. Trending in the AM. It starts in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, we're live everywhere. Make sure you like, share, retweet, follow, subscribe, turn notifications on, tell a friend, but most importantly, get involved and drop your comments on the show as we talk all different topics today that are trending in Philadelphia sports, because this is the show, Trending in the AM, where your opinions actually matter. And like I said in the intro, the cold intro, we've got lots on the topic today. We're talking concerns. We're talking concerns for the Philadelphia Eagles, most specifically. We're talking concerns for our Sixers as NBA free agency updates and was wild this weekend. So much going on. That's why I went 15 minutes early. We're going to talk Eagles, but there's so much else that we could talk about. I had to make sure we gave us an extra 15 minutes this morning to make sure we had time to cover it all. Phillies drop a brutal series to the Nationals this weekend. Packed house, Citizen Bank Park, all weekend long. People braving the heat, the humidity, the smoke, and the bad air quality, and they dropped 2 or 3. Are you concerned about your Phillies? Are you concerned about your Sixers? I mean, it's all on the agenda today. I don't know. I don't know where your concerns most lie. I want to talk some Eagles, but if you want to talk Sixers, Eagles, Flyers. Their big rookie draft pick, 7th overall pick. I'm not even going to try to say his name. Said he was going to be here sooner than we expected. So that's a positive thing this weekend. Jim Curtin from the Philadelphia Union extended through 2026, 2027. So there's positives that happen in Philly sports this weekend. See, I know something about all 5 teams. I don't just talk Phillies, Eagles, and Sixers. I know a smidge of everything else too. But let's start with Eagles. Let's talk Eagles to start the day. If you want to get into Sixers or Phillies, be my guest, drop those comments, and we'll tackle them. It is the 4th of July extended weekend, so hopefully some people are off that don't normally tune in. We'll see what we got. If I didn't say it, I am Phil Stiefel, your host. You can follow me on Twitter, if it still exists, Twitter, at Beard and Knowledge. I'd greatly appreciate that as well. So Eagles, concerns. Where did this topic come from? Why did I want to wake up on a Monday morning, July 3rd, and talk about concerns? And I have a feeling that this topic might go on for several days this week because it's a pretty long conversation that we have to have because there is a lot of hype going on in Philadelphia with our Eagles. But my man, Jimmy Kempski, he writes for Philly Voice. He's a great writer. One of the better beat reporters for sure for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he does a lot of good stuff covering this team. And he put out an article, and I will preface this by saying I did not know he does this every year. And I did not know he does this for every NFC East team. So this was initially, to me, when I read the article, I'm like, the article's great. The guts of the article are fantastic. But I'm like, oh, what's he doing with this clickbait headline? He wrote an article, and the article title was 10 Reasons the Eagles Will Be a Dumpster Fire This Season. And I'm like, oh, crap. Now I really got to click because I'm going to fall for the clickbait. But then I was let known by my man George in a private message that he does this every year. And he does it every year for all the NFC East teams. So I have not gone back and read the articles yet this year on the Commanders or the Cowboys or the Giants yet. But he supposedly does this every year. why, like, he uses the dumpster fire for all the teams. But it is still a clickbaity type of headline. And if he would have just titled it 10 Reasons of Concern Entering the 2023 Season, the actual article has some very valid points. And it really struck home because we are extremely, extremely hyped as we get ready to enter the 2023 season. You know, coming off a Super Bowl appearance, you know, Jalen Hurts' ascension. Shout out to my man Jordan Mailata getting married over the weekend, I believe in Hawaii. Hurts and a lot of the Eagles teammates were there. The guy was singing to his new bride on his wedding day. Man, what's it got to be like to be Jordan Mailata? You are blessed to be one of the best rugby players. And then you're like, hey, you know what? I want to play some football. You come play football for the first time in your life. You're blessed to be super talented at that. And then you're blessed with a voice from God, you know, like the most awesome singing voice there is out there. Like, the guy just keeps winning everywhere, Jordan Mailata. But all this hype, all this potential, you know, Jalen Hurts and, you know, how he's going to, you know, follow up last year's MVP caliber season. And we're not ever thinking about the negatives that could happen. And let me be honest, there are negatives that can present itself, that can create challenges in 2023. I'm not saying I'm worried. We are still going to be the best team in the NFC East, in my opinion. We're still going to be the best team in the NFC, in my opinion. But I'm a realist fan. And I do know that there are question marks entering this season. Some fans, it's just all straightforward. This is going to be perfect. We're going to go 17-0. You know, we're going to dominate every single week, just like we did, blah, 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 blah. I get it. That's the super over-the-top fandom, and I do fall into that trap on occasion. But what I do realize also is that there are some serious, serious concerns that I have, and I hope you have some of as well. And we're going to start tackling some of this. So this list has 10 reasons. We might not get through all 10 reasons today, but I do want to start tackling some of them. And if we have to carry this conversation tomorrow, you know, we will. But point one on his conversation, and part of it is really, really discussed a lot, some of it not so much. The amount of players we did lose. I mean, when you go to the Super Bowl, your coaches, which we'll get into the coaches part of it, you know, again in a few minutes. But when you go to the Super Bowl, your free agents get poached. You can only retain so many of them. And he starts out this first point by discussing Javon Hargrave, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, T.J. Edwards, Marcus Epps, Kazir White. That is 5 of your starters on defense we lost. Not only did we lose our defensive coordinator, thankfully, Jonathan Gannon, but we lost 5 starters. You only start 11 guys. So that's pretty much half your defense has gone. Now, I want to get into this defense that's lost, but I will criticize Jimmy Kempski's article here for a second, because he basically puts 3 paragraphs together. No, 4, 5, 6, 8 paragraphs together on players lost. And at the very bottom of it, there's one line. Offensively, the underrated Isaac Seumalo will be placed at right guard, either by Cam Jurgens or Tyler Steen. And that's all that's mentioned there. And I want to shout out a guy. I don't know this guy. First time I've ever seen him comment on Twitter, Honeyboy on Twitter. He responded. It looks like it's a backup account for somebody. I'm not sure who. But he said he responded when I put the promotion out on Facebook or on Twitter for today's show. He put it out there. He said his biggest concern is not just linebacker or safety. It's the loss of Isaac Seumalo and the loss of Andre Dillard, the depth that we've got there. And I really do think that the loss of Seumalo is being extremely underrated as something that, you know, has happened this offseason. And I'll even throw Andre Dillard there as well. The offensive line as a whole, it's being underrated, the loss of those 2 guys. So I got to get my coffee in this morning for sure. What is up, my man? How you doing today, Jason? So we're talking about losses and concerns for our Eagles. And I'm wondering, I mean, everybody's hyping up, not hyping up, but talking about the loss of Javon Hargrave. Can Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Milton Williams fill in? But no one's talking about Isaac Seumalo. And you think about it, what did the Eagles do this offseason to replace Seumalo and Andre Dillard? They've got Cam Jurgens, their heir apparent to Jason Kelce, training, bulking up to take over that right guard spot. a position he's never played in his life. And they drafted rookie Tyler Steen, second or third round, whenever it was. And he's been a tackle his entire life. And that's your replacement for Sayamalu and Andre Dillard, who was a very good depth piece on the defensive line. And I think, how do I say this, that we're just assuming too much. Like we've got to really think about this for a second. We put a lot of stock into Jeff Stoutland and what he does with the offensive linemen, how he develops them, how he grooms them, how he gets them ready, and he's Hall of Fame offensive line coach without a shadow of a doubt. But are we putting too much stock in that just magically Cam Jurgens, a center, can just play right guard, or Tyler Steen, a tackle, can just play right guard instantly in the NFL? Now, I've already talked about it a little bit, that at least whoever plays right guard, and it hasn't been official yet who's going to play. And we're about 3 weeks out. The 25th is when camp starts. Today's the 3rd, so we're 22 days out from camp. And, so a lot can happen. So it's not said who it is. At least whoever it is, Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen, whoever it is, will have Lane Johnson on one side, Jason Kelce on the other side. They'll have two bookends on each side of them that'll help groom them and coach them on the field. I get that. I appreciate the kind words, my man. I appreciate it. And Mitch, what is up, my man? How you doing this morning? Talking concerns entering 2023 for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm starting out with Isaac Sayamalu here. The loss of Isaac Sayamalu. What are we putting too much stock into it, though? Did Howie Roseman, I know you can't go out and sign every veteran. I know you can't go out there and sign every big-name free agent. But his replacements for this big loss here are two young kids that have no experience at the position. We're going to find out, and it probably will work out just fine. Jeff Stoutland, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce will have whoever starts ready to go and have their back. The question is, and it's I think it's a fair question, is it going to be, are we too overconfident in that spot? And I think it's something that we have to monitor. I think it's something we have to watch. If it was my decision, I'm putting the rookie Tyler Steen there. That's what I am doing. Because Cam Jurgens is your backup center. And Cam Jurgens is the future center. And Cam Jurgens bulking up and learning new positions, taking away from his ability to be ready when Jason Kelce has to step aside. Good morning, John. Hargrave was bad against the run. Check the stats. Isaac was overrated. Isaac Sayamalu was overrated. And Javon Hargrave had a great season last year. And I would have to go back and check it, against against the run stats and stuff like that. I think, all the losses, Javon Hargrave, TJ Edwards, Kazir White, Marcus Epps, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on defense, and Isaac Sayamalu. Hargrave is the least concern of mine. I know Javon Hargrave had an amazing season last year, John, but he's the one I'm least concerned of because of Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams, and I've said it before on the show, John, you may have seen it, you may have not. You look at Milton Williams' stats. If you do it per snap percentage, was the 4th best defensive tackle in football last year. Now, he only played like 30% of the snaps, so the sample size is small. But it was like Aaron Donald and then Milton Williams. So, it's like I'm not worried about Hargrave. I think to Sayamalu, I don't know how he was overrated. I would really have to dig deep into the film to see why. But I cannot get behind Sayamalu being overrated. I mean, he wasn't the best guy. I'm not saying he was the best guy on this line, but he was still a very vital part of this line. And you're following up with saying Hargrave was great. He was great against the pass. But, yeah, I could probably see that. The biggest loss will always be Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler will never leave, Brian. Never leave. He will always be right there with us every morning on this show. I change jerseys. Harden's hidden in the background. Jerseys fly around on these walls back here. But Jimmy, he'll never leave us again because he'll always be right there for us. But back to these losses here. I got to say, I think it's interesting on how you say overrated Sayamalu. I think it's a fair thing. Yeah. For sure. And NBA free agency is on the topic today. If anybody wants to talk about concerns about the NBA free agency and for our Sixers, I mean, there are concerns. I am concerned about what our Philadelphia 76ers are going to look like in 2023, 2024. I think we've got 8 guys on the – maybe Patrick Beverley was the 9th guy. They did sign Patrick Beverley this weekend. Man, we got 9 guys on a roster, and we got no money to spend. The Sixers, I mean, it might just flip a switch if they make a big, bold trade and get, a big star. But, man, the Sixers team, they're going to fall right into the trap that I wanted, and that's that pause year. My brother yesterday used a different term. I forget what he called it. Not a pause year. Whatever word my brother used when we were chit-chatting at the shop the other day, he was like, it's this. I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I've been calling it, a pause year, but in a much better phrase that might not scare people. But, yeah, concerns. Don't get me wrong, Isaac was good. John, I'll ask you straight up, are you concerned with Tyler Steen or Cam Jurgens filling in that spot? I mean, you got to think about it. This offensive line is what – I mean, Jalen Hurts is an MVP caliber player. I'm not trying to say anything against Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts and this offense runs as effectively as it does because we had a cohesive all-pro level line all year long. And you're taking one of the starting pieces out who played all – I don't know if he played all – he might have missed a couple games. But, you're taking him out and you're replacing him with 2 kids that don't have any experience in that role. And you could talk, I'm concerned about safety because I don't think Edmonds and Blankenship and Brown are enough to fill in. I'm concerned at linebacker because I'm confident in Kobe Dean, but not the rest of the linebacker core. But, the defense as a whole is really good, so they can make up for it. I'm concerned that not enough focus is put on the loss of Sayamalu because those starting 5 last year were damn good. One of the best in the league. That running game was so efficient because of that starting 5. Jalen Hurts had time to throw the ball downfield to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith anytime he wanted because that line was giving him protection. And I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to overvalue the loss of Isaac Sayamalu. What I'm trying to say here is, when I read this article and I talk and read the article about the concerns of this Eagles team, and there's 8 paragraphs written about the defensive losses, but 1 sentence written about the loss of Sayamalu, I think people are undervaluing the loss. And John, you're very confident in those guys. That's good. And I think the fact that they're playing in that bookend there between those guys does help. And the fact that Stoutland might be the first ever, Hall of Fame offensive line coach ever. Going back to Sixers, lining up to a pause year, correct. Harden and Harris have expiring contracts that can be traded. Yeah. It's a, I said it before he said he opted into his contract with James Harden, that James Harden was holding this team hostage by not making a decision. Now that he made his decision, Mark, James Harden is holding us hostage even more because, it's been reported, it's been talked about already on social media. If you're not in your Twitter view limits of the day, what if James Harden doesn't get it? Daryl Morey played hardball in the Ben Simmons trade scenario. And his playing hardball was basically because he wanted James Harden. But he missed out on Tyler Halliburton, who just signed a big bag of cash this weekend. And he held out on a lot of other potential deals. But he played hardball. If he's got in his mind that he wants X in return for James Harden, he doesn't get it. Do not be surprised if James Harden is still on this roster game 1 of the season when training camp rolls around. And it'll be interesting to see what James Harden does. Will he sit out? Will he sulk? We saw when he went to Memphis or wherever, he got all fat and stuff like that. I don't need a season of distractions. I don't. But on the flip side, I get where Daryl Morey is. This team is in a tough spot where they have to get something. They have to get something of value in return for James Harden, whether it's picks, whether it's multiple players, whether it's more expiring contracts, whether it's, a superstar in return, whatever it may be. And it's hard. You can't get a Super Bowl. Dame Lillard this weekend saying he finally officially wants out of Portland. Well, you can't trade James Harden for Dame Lillard unless you're including Tyrese Maxey. And whether you want to trade him or not, that's debatable. But the thing is, unless you're including Tyrese Maxey, these trades aren't going to happen. James Harden is an expiring contract. He opted into the last year. So whatever team trades for him is trading for a rental. And they're not going to give up massive amounts of value for a rental who, has changed his mind so many times on where he wants to play, on what he wants to be a part of. If you asked me 3 months ago, I would have said James Harden wants to be here. But now you can just tell he doesn't want to be. Like you just don't know what's going on in that head of that man. So, James Harden is holding us hostage. There is a serious chance that we roll into training camp for the Sixers with James Harden and Tobias Harris still on this roster. And it's filled out with Patrick Beverley, one or two other, cheap vet free agents we bring in, and a bunch of these guys that you're seeing in summer league that starts today. Today's the Utah one, then Vegas starts later in the week. That kid Petruvia, whatever his name is, the big guy that we drafted and stashed overseas, he'll probably be on the team. There's a lot of these young kids. That's what your team's going to be filled out with. And Harden, Harris, Tucker, and Embiid. Again. And Maxey, obviously. There's a chance our starting five is exactly the same. I hope it doesn't play out that way. Because I don't want the distraction. I just want to move on. Fresh start, however you do it. But we might be there. On a side note, we'll get back to the Eagles in a second. Side note, I just saw it this morning. I don't know when the video was posted or not. But you see our boy Joel Embiid playing ball one-on-one with Jason Tatum, and a video of them going one-on-one, and Embiid beat Tatum in a one-on-one game 7-6. And they seem awfully chummy there. They seemed awfully chummy at the end of the Sixers-Celtics series. We talked about it in the last couple of weeks. When will Joel will he ever say, I want out of here? There's a scenario in my head that him and Tatum want to team up at some point. It could happen. And Jaylen Brown is a free agent at the end of next season. And that Tatum and Brown duo doesn't seem to be working. I see Boston bombing this year, adding Kristaps Porzingis. That's not good for the team. Losing Marcus Smart. It's something that I'm just floating around out there. Harden is holding us hostage. I hope they both are gone before day one. I hope so. Problem is, there's a chance it might not happen. There's a chance. And it concerns me. It concerns me with the Sixers because, again, today's topic's not just about the Eagles. It's just about the term concerns with all our teams, with all 5 Philly sports teams, which we only really got major concerns about 3 of them. Phillies, the Sixers, and the Eagles. But I'm concerned that Harden might be here day one. And if Harden is here day one, we got a problem. I lost my pen. Damn it. Ugh. Gotta have my pen with me. Always. Can never not have my pen. It's kind of like my security blanket. I'll just play around with it right here. Again, make sure we're liking this video here on Facebook and YouTube. Only got the 1 like on Facebook. Make sure you like the video. YouTube, we got 9 likes so far. Make sure you pound that like button. More likes equal more views, my man. My guys. Concerned. So back to the Eagles. I got off on a little Sixers tangent there for a second. We can get back to the Sixers if we want to. But I want to get back to the Eagles. And we spent loss of starters is a concern. And I don't want to undervalue the defensive losses because I do think there are plenty of losses on defense that should be valid concerns. But the Isaac Seumalo topic is something that I really, really wanted to make sure we spent a good 15, 20 minutes on. We should have had Tatum in the draft, but we were never. John, you got to get over it, John. You do. I've gotten over it. I've come to the understanding we were never getting Jason Tatum. Boston does not make that trade with us up to 1. There was a continue. We want Jason Tatum. If you're drafting him, we do not make that trade. And that's what it was. But, whoever was it, Colangelo was in charge at that moment, right? So Colangelo and whoever was in charge in Boston, I don't know if Ainge had taken over the front office yet there. Maybe he had. It was, we want 1, you want 3. And it was because they really wanted Fultz. They were worried the Lakers may take Fultz at 2. That was it. There was no way Boston makes that deal. And if Colangelo, even though he's a slimy little bastard with multiple burner accounts and stuff like that. If he would have said sure and then drafted Tatum anyway, that would have been a disaster. You just don't lie to your fellow GMs when you're doing those kind of trades. I'll get over that, Phil. Remember, yeah, dude, it's tough, man. It's tough to get over. I get it. I get that. Jason Tatum could have been a Sixer, but it just, if we don't make that trade with Boston, at least we don't give up didn't we give up a first round draft pick to make that move? Like, so maybe we have that extra pick, but there is no scenario in my mind where Boston doesn't take Tatum 1 if they stay at 1. So there was literally no chance we were ever getting Jason Tatum. We just gotta, we gotta just accept that. I guess you could have taken, Lonzo Ball 1 or somebody else 1, but you're never taking Tatum 1. And it was a mistake, obviously. Blatant, obvious mistake. But I move on. I will say Markelle Fultz is a guy I would target in this offseason in some form of a trade. Orlando's got such a plethora of young guards, and Markelle Fultz has really turned himself into a hell of a player down there. So I wouldn't have any problem bringing Markelle Fultz. What is up, Adam? Happy Monday morning to you. Hope you had a good weekend, my man. Hope everyone had a good weekend. And, we're talking Eagles and we're talking Sixers. Phillies are on the docket for sure. I will say one thing. If anybody was at the Phillies game on Saturday when Shaq performed, I need a first-hand account of how Shaq's performance was live. I'm so glad I don't have to hear Tom McCarthy read during the commercials and Shaq, a.k.a. Diesel, performing after the Phillies game, and your ticket to the game is good for the ticket to the concert. I'm so glad I don't have to hear that anymore. I don't know why. I had no desire. Zero, zilch, zip. But no desire to see Shaq perform after a basketball game or a baseball game. Like, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Like, I don't know where that partnership came from, but I wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing. So if anybody was there that night or the other night and wants to give me a first-hand account, that's great. But back to the Eagles here. So I put a lot of emphasis on the loss of Isaac Seumalo. But yes, Hargrave to an extent is a loss. I'm confident in the replacements. But losing your 2 starting safeties and your 2 starting linebackers is a concern to me. Because supposedly the best game and best after-game entertainment, better than the fireworks. Excuse me. Fireworks and the drone show. Because we do know those fireworks shows are fantastic. I've been to a few of the fireworks shows, in the past, and they're great. But yeah, I don't know about the best performance. Does Shaq even do anything other than just DJ and mix? I don't know. Maybe I'm a hater. Maybe I'm putting some of my Rob Thomas hate on Shaq's performance. The drone show was great. I don't even know, like, the drone show stuff. Like, it's weird to me. Like, it's cool. I'm more fascinated by the amount of effort it takes to put the drone show together than the actual drone show itself. Like, fireworks are like awesome and stuff like that. Drones are just like flying into position to do an image, and it's cool. But the amount of work that goes into programming those drones to do that, that's what I don't know about. Love Shaq, guaranteed Phillies. Yeah, in the world. Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal did say Phillies win. But Mark, aren't you a little concerned after losing 2 out of 3 to the Nationals this weekend? That, to me, is a concern for this city. That our Phillies, after building up all this momentum, then go and drop 2 or 3 against one of the worst teams in baseball. I saw some national person saying the Nationals are still going to make the wild card, which is a joke. But man, how do you do that? How do you drop 2 or 3 games to the Washington Nationals this weekend? I have no idea. I don't get it. I have no clue. I'm at a loss for words with it. Lost for words. But I want to move on to some other things here. But again, where's everybody's level of concern with the fact that we have 2 new safeties, 2 new starting linebackers, on this team entering the season? We could combine that. We'll skip point 2 on this list here that I'm reading from, and we'll go to 3 and the loss of coaches. We did a show a few weeks ago with Coach Dale Carlson a good friend of the show and a friend of mine who spent 40 years coaching in the in all different leagues. He's never actually coached in the NFL, but he's coached in all different levels of college, smaller and football leagues and stuff like that. And he said, we discussed, we losing our offensive and defensive coordinator. We got new guys in these roles. Sean Desai taking over this defense that has lost 5 starters. Maybe my lack of fear on the losses on defense are because it's new starters, it's a new coordinator, it's a whole new scheme, whole new everything getting put into play here. So it's easier because everybody's on page one together. It's not like you've got new guys trying to learn another guy's system. Everybody's learning everything together, the coaches and the players. But on offense, the concerns of losing Isaac Seumalo, we lost our offensive coordinator as well. And Shane Steichen, love him or hate him, vital part. Everybody gives Nick Sirianni the credit. Everybody gives Brian Johnson the credit for the growth that Jalen Hurts took. Well, Shane Steichen, since he took over plays midway through the 2021 season, was an excellent offensive coordinator. There's no doubt that he was getting a job. Whether it was last year, this year, whenever, he was going to get that promotion. You could have discussed whether Jonathan Gannon deserved it or not, and we did for 2 off seasons. But there's no debate that Shane Steichen deserved an opportunity to be a head coach somewhere. And him going to the Colts, another team with a new young quarterback, it's just obvious. And, I think that the loss of the players that we have, the loss of the coaches, with success in the NFL, in the NBA, assistant coaches get poached. It's up to the culture and the system that the head coach and the leaders of this team, a.k.a. Jalen Hurts, put out there. Shout out to Jalen Hurts. That suit, that sports coat he was wearing at Jordan Mailata's, it was a nice light green color. It wasn't Kelly green. It was a nice light green. He was looking pretty good out there. What's the cool kids' words? The drip was pretty fly. It was good. It was really, really good. Shane will be a loss, but Johnson supposedly is a really good coach and has history. And yes, what you say here is 100% accurate. But Brian Johnson hasn't ever called plays in the NFL. Now, I'm not sure. I think he has called plays in college. Not only did he, play a vital role in Jalen Hurts' ascension in the last couple of years, but when he was at the University of Florida, he played a vital role in the ascension of Kyle Trask as well. Kyle Trask doesn't get drafted in the NFL without Brian Johnson. So he's got this great reputation. And on a side note, Brian Johnson will be a head coach, whether it's after this season or next season. Within the next 2 years, Brian Johnson will be a head coach because of what he did in college and what he did with the Eagles with developing young quarterbacks. A team that drafts a young quarterback will hire him to be their head coach because of that, without a shadow of a doubt. And Nick Sirianni better be already grooming his next offensive coordinator at this point so that there is no loss there. But again, Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen had a way of calling plays. And while Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts are on this same wavelength, Shane Steichen and Jalen Hurts and the whole offense were really linked. So you got to have a smidge. Just keep it in the back of your head, John, that smidge. There could be some hiccups with play calling. When Nick Sirianni says, yo, Brian, we're going for it here on 4th down, does Brian Johnson hesitate at all on what play to call? Does he hesitate ever on 3rd and 7? What kind of mistakes does he make? Does he learn from his mistakes quickly? Because you can make a mistake calling a play. It's how you react the next time that situation comes up, how quickly you adjust your play calling into the flow of a game. It's something we have to at least keep our eyes on, John. And it's something I am. The Riz. I think the kids call it the Riz. So it's not drip anymore, the Riz. Man, I've never even heard that. You've got young kids, Mark. So you know what the cool words are. Maybe drip is like mid now, not cool anymore. Hopefully Nick oversees his development. I'm sure Nick will be very hands-on with Brian Johnson. I don't doubt that whatsoever, that the two of them will be very, very tied at the hip. And they've probably been tied at the hip all season. And in camp, they're going to be tied at the hip. And I love that Nick Sirianni does not call the plays himself, that he delegates that. And he just runs the team. I prefer head coaches that run the team versus, dominating every part of the team. It helps you, manage other aspects of the team. So I think that's fine. But again, too much emphasis is put on the loss of Javon Hargrave, and not enough emphasis is put on the loss of everybody else we've just talked about. Because that is what it is. We've lost a lot of people, a lot of players and coaches on this team. Some we've replaced, some there's some question marks. And I think it's a valid area of concern for all of us to be able to say that. And part two on this list that kind of goes into the aspect of, losses of players. It's also that there's going to be more losses on this team in the coming years. Do you know that there's only we have the most players as of now listed starters that are 32 years of age or older on this team. The Eagles have 4 players 32 years of age or older starting. There's 4 teams with 3 and a bunch with 1 or 2. And those 4 starters, you've got Brandon Graham and Jason Kelce are both going to be 35 or are 35 now. Lane Johnson is 33. Actually, 5. This list is a little off here. So it's 5 guys. Lane Johnson is 33. Fletcher Cox and Darius Slay are both 32. So there's 5 guys that are 32 or older. Kelce is obviously at the end of his career. He never knows whether he's going to play or not. I think that Jason Kelce is a legend. Jason Kelce is a Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia sports athletes for the not just the play on the field, the off the field stuff, everything, the all encompass of everything. Jason Kelce is a Mount Rushmore guy for everything he does on and off the field, the leadership aspect, everything. But he's almost at the end. And you got to understand, when a guy teeters every offseason on whether they want to come back or not, that's got to be a concern. Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham at 35. Brandon Graham played very little last year, and he still had double-digit sacks. I'm not concerned about Brandon Graham because our defensive ends and edge rushers were so deep, he's not going to have a lot put on his shoulders. But, that's there. He's older. Lane Johnson, 33, has been missing time. And you're moving these guys that could play right tackle into the guard position. It's a concern. I agree we lost a lot of guys, but Howie did a great job and maybe even upgraded in some aspects. That's fair. I don't think he upgraded linebacker or safety. Now I'm confident in Nakobe Dean sliding in. But outside of that, he did not do enough in those situations, and I think we will still bring another player in on this team. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wasn't added to this team till the 20th of August last year. So there will be another, whether it's linebacker or safety, somebody else added. There's no doubt there in my mind. But I think there's still more things that need to be done. Kelce should seriously think about retiring after this season. He's got a bright future in I don't know if he's going to be a broadcaster or what, but Jason Kelce will succeed at whatever he does because he's just that awesome. But Jason Kelce, I just don't like it when players are on that teetering that fence all the time. It really, really frustrates me. I don't know. It holds teams hostage to an extent. Look, and he was teetering, and you got his replacement ready to go, but and he's like, I want to come back, and I get it. He doesn't want to go out losing in the Super Bowl like he did last year. And I love the determination. And some people, I doubt Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I doubt Aaron Rodgers and the Jets a lot. I've already said my first bold prediction for 2023 NFL season is the Jets will win 6 or less games. Because Aaron Rodgers was this close to retiring. He had to go into his darkness retreat or whatever the freak that was. Basically, let's go get high for a couple of days and eat some mushrooms. But I don't have confidence in him and that teetering. I have confidence in Kelce being, once he said he was coming back, fully committed. But again, at his age, you got to be concerned. Lane Johnson, you got to be concerned about that age. Fletcher Cox, I can't believe he's only 32. Fletcher Cox plays like he's like a 38-year-old guy. Like he really does. So it concerns me. And we've got Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and we're looking at them as replacements for Hargrave. But Fletcher Cox needs to take a step back too. Like there's got to be a scenario where Carter and Williams are your starters almost on that defensive line. Because Fletcher Cox will get the start, but I don't want him playing 55, 60% of the games. We don't besmirch Fletcher Cox. Yes, we do. We didn't besmirch him. We just said he's old. And he plays even older. Darius Slay. I mean, last year, I don't have the exact count or the exact number, but how many games did Darius Slay come out of mid-game for 2 or 3 series? Like, it happened a lot. We're not super deep at cornerback. We got Bradbury, who I want to talk about James Bradbury in a minute, but we got James Bradbury. We got Avonte Maddox in the slot, who Avonte Maddox misses a lot of games every year because he's very injury prone. You brought in Greedy Williams, who is always injured, and you got Kellen Ringo, a rookie. So, yeah, I don't get it. Linebacker is a massive concern, but as my man George would always tell me, that linebacker is just not an area of concern for this team and building the team. And I think it's a flaw. And you know what's funny, John? I spent all of last year and this offseason talking about how I wasn't even a fan of TJ Edwards or Kasir White. I think if you really, really watch the eye test, their performances last year slipped as the season went on. But they were still way better than what we've got going into this season. Like, Nakobe Dean has got potential to be great. But these other guys, Ellis and, I don't know, is Davian Taylor even on this team? You know, like, we're really depleted at linebacker this year. And you know, I never thought I'd say it, but I'm concerned I might miss TJ Edwards or Kasir White. Doc Rivers replacing Jeff Van Gundy. Yes, interesting. You know, on a shout out, you know, to ESPN guys and girls, and, you know, Adam, you know, a lot of people got laid off from ESPN this weekend. And, you know, we crush the big media names and the big national channels and networks all the time, but no one should ever root for people to lose their jobs. You know, there's a lot of really talented people that lost their jobs this weekend. And, you know, yeah, Doc Rivers might be the guy. And everyone's like, well, how are they making cutbacks and going to hire Doc Rivers? Doc Rivers is getting paid a lot of money by the Sixers this upcoming year. So ESPN can offer him just a little bit of money and, you know, some really good travel perks, and he'll take that job. And I bet you Doc Rivers is probably a pretty solid announcer. I bet you he does a pretty solid job if he does take that spot. I'm thinking of Doug Collins. Once he left the Sixers and went into the broadcast booth, he was really solid at it as well. Someone is going to have to fill a huge leadership role if Cox or Kelsey retire. You know, fantastic comment. Fantastic comment here. I love it. I think that looks like Peanut's son in the picture. Is that Peanut? I think that's who that is. It's a fantastic comment and fantastic point right there. The good thing on the offensive side is you have Jalen Hurts. That's part one of it. You will always have him in that leadership role. I think that. See, I knew it was you. I knew it was you. See, I'm sometimes semi-smart. I've gotten almost my full cup of coffee in. But I think the defensive side of it is where my concern or my question will come in. Because if you look at this defense, maybe it'll be Hassan Reddick, but he'll be going into his third year when you're talking about comes up of a 5-year deal. So maybe he's here, maybe he's not. There is no de facto leader set up. Like on offense, you've got Hurts. And then maybe Jordan Mailata takes a leadership role to an extent. Maybe he takes that Tobias Harris type leadership role, the quiet leader, the locker room leader type role. I could see that big time there. So I'm not concerned about replacing Kelsey's leadership, but the defensive leader, I don't know who it is. Darius Slay's getting older. We talk about Bradbury and Slay, how hyped we are that they're back, and they got 2 or 3 year extensions, the two of them. But they're both north of 30. They're long in the legs. I'm concerned that James Bradbury this year isn't going to be as good as last year. He signed a 1-year deal to play for the Eagles. He took one of those, you know, prove it type deals for the Eagles. And what happened? Played out of his mind. No doubt about it. But, like, you look at his numbers, it's like he played so well. Like, he was never that good before last year. And he's 30 now. So you got to expect some regression from James Bradbury, don't you? Like, there's got to be a part of you that's concerned that Bradbury might back off a little bit. The most entertaining thing about ESPN is their downfall. Some really good. Yeah, I mean, Susie Colbert is one that comes to mind. Her being let go on Monday Night Football. I mean, she's a staple of ESPN for close to 30 years. Her getting let go, that one sucks. It really does. And they're spending so much money on Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith that they got to cut some really talented people. And there's a lot of talk on social media before you hit your Twitter limits all weekend about, when ESPN and Sports Center back in the late 90s, mid 90s, when that was the only way to get your highlights. And you watched it every night, at dinner time, and you watched it every morning, before you went off to school or work. Like ESPN Sports Center was legendary. It set the tone of sports highlights. It set it up. And a lot of good people, guys and girls, lost their jobs, and it's a shame. I hardly watch it. I hardly watch it anymore, other than for sports. When like a team's playing on there that I got to watch a game. That's about it. Howie will pull a rabbit out of his hat and get a good linebacker. Dean will be awesome. I'm really high on Nakobe Dean. I really am. I think Nakobe Dean's going to be a great football player. I think him getting to sit last year, fully get healthy, learn. Yeah, I love when rookies sit a majority of their rookie year, and get to slowly get eased into the process of being a pro. I really do. So I'm high on him. Whether Howie gets a linebacker or a safety, I don't know. Obviously, Buda Baker's name is still out there, but there's going to be a lot of names that are floated around there. We'll see which one he takes. Doc Rivers started in broadcasting in TNT after his career, and he was very good at it. Yeah, I bet you. I do not doubt that Doc Rivers, will be, very, very good at it. And I'm looking forward to it for sure. Josh Sweat. Whew. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything about him being a leader before. But I think I just think you mentioning his name, period, is very interesting here. Because I think we just spent 46 minutes. Most of the show has been talking about the Eagles, a little Sixers, a little bit of Phillies, whatnot. And we talk about all these guys that are going to have to take steps up this year. Everybody forgets about Josh Sweat. I think, did Josh Sweat tweet something out this week or so about, how hyped he is for the season, and, really that even though he had double-digit stats, he still feels he's got to prove himself. And the homegrown talent part, it's a great story. We often I kind of feel like we take Josh Sweat for granted. Does that make sense? Because when we're talking about this team, we talk about the edge rushers and the blitzers on this team. We talk about Reddick. We talk about Brandon Graham, Hargrave, Fletcher. We talk about everybody. Nobody ever talks about Josh Sweat. And he's poised. And again, I said it already with Brandon Graham. Like, this year, everybody's going to, I don't know, because there's 6 of them that are, Dirk Barnett's still on this team and is going to come back healthy this year. We're so deep at end and edge rusher that they all get kind of lost in the shuffle, except for Reddick, because Josh Reddick had so many sacks last year. So I think that's interesting. I love that you brought him up, because I think we need to mention Josh Sweat's name more frequently when we're talking Eagles. I really think we do. I believe that X-Players podcast forced ESPN to change its format. Yeah, not just that. I just think that the world of YouTube and social media and TikTok and Instagram and Reels and podcasts in general, and, morning shows like us, because of me, they had to cancel their morning show. They had Mike and Mike. That fell apart after years and years and a decade together. They tried to replace it. Then they had to cut that show. Why? Because Trending in the AM was just stealing too many of the ESPN morning show views every single morning. I can't help it. I'm sorry, guys, that you lost your job because of it. But yeah, I think what you're saying here, Peanut, is an extremely fair point. That just the way, ESPN didn't know how to adjust, to pivot on the way the world was going. And their way of pivoting was just spending a lot of money on Pat McAfee, which you notice they signed Pat McAfee, and now everybody's getting laid off because they probably paid. Let's not take anything away from Pat McAfee. I'm not a huge fan of his stuff, but he does do a good show. He does an entertaining show. He's great in the WWE commentary and whatnot business and stuff like that. He's an entertaining personality, but he costs a lot of money. And that money, if you're losing advertising dollars, if your ratings are dropping, and you're going to spend that big money on him and Stephen A. Smith, somebody else has got to go. Angelo retired. I took over. And now everybody else is failing. This morning show is a show that everybody is coming to. Everybody. Why? Because I'm the GOAT. I'm the GOAT at this. Let's see the Josh Sweat sack celebration. Again, does he have a celebration? Because Kyle, I feel like for a guy that's been on this team for as long as he has and has as many sacks as he does, I don't know enough about him. I don't. And I think I think when Spend the Bar brought Josh Sweat's name into the conversation, I think it's something that we all need to realize that Josh Sweat is a vital part of this team, a vital part of this organization. Will he be the leader of the future? I don't know. What did he sign? A 4-year deal 2 off seasons ago? So he's going into year 2 or year 3 of his new contract. He's a vital part of this team right now. I appreciate you loving the show, Peanut. I do. I know. Me and you, you're a cheater. I know you are. It's okay. Side note, Peanut cheated in our fantasy football draft. My broadcasting system. He set such a great example for his son, cheating in his fantasy football league. And he beat me in the championship game. Even though he cheated, I still made it to the championship game. But he beat me in the championship game because he cheated. And now on his show, Birds, Beer, and BS, whenever they do that, because they don't have a set schedule, they don't go 5 days a week like me. He's got his championship belt sitting out there. That's supposed to be my championship belt. Supposed to be mine. I don't know. I might not even come back because, cheaters, man, I just can't do it. I love you, man. He does. He wipes the sweat off his forehead looking into the camera. Okay. See, and Kyle, it's so funny because I'm focused. Like, I'm watching every game, just like you, like, intently in front. I don't go to bars to watch the game. I watch at home so I can prep for these shows. I take notes on these games. I have a notebook every season for every game. But yet I don't know about Josh Sweat and what he does outside of the numbers that are on the stat sheet because we take Josh Sweat for granted. I really, truly believe we take Josh Sweat for granted in the city. And he's young. The vets, the Hargraves, the Cox, the Reddicks, the Brandon Grahams, they get all the credit. But Josh Sweat, hold on, give me a second here. I'm going to pull up, because now I'm really curious. I want to pull up Josh Sweat's, stats and everything else here. I want to pull it up, and then I'll pull up his contract in a second. I want to see, or maybe you can pull up his contract for me, what his contract's left. He signed it last year for 4 years, so whatever that may be, but why can't I find NFL? There's Sports Reference. No, that's college. Why am I getting college stuff from Josh Sweat? Why can't I get Josh Sweat's stats up on my screen here? What is going on here? Oh, man, you're killing me here. All right, we'll just go to ESPN's bio page. I don't like it as much. His ESPN bio page isn't quite as good. But he is now 26 years old. He'll be 26 all season. He already turned 26 this year. He played 16 games last year, so he missed one. He had 11 sacks, 7.5 the year before, 31 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble. Guy's a good player. A guy that gets 11 sacks, plays 16 out of 17 games, that means you're not getting credit. If I don't know what your sack celebration is, if I don't know your age, I don't know what your contract is left on, like it says something. It says something about how under the radar you go. And I think that's interesting. Here's his contract here. My computer's moving a little slow opening this page. Let me close out something else here. Why isn't it opening up his contract? Well, it didn't open it up. Anyway, I don't want to slow the feed down at all, so I don't know what's going on. Tell me if I'm not wrong. He had a broken leg when we drafted him, and how he took a chance and it paid off. I don't know. He had something. Was it a broken leg? Seems like it was a long time ago. Again, so much flies under the radar, John. We don't know anything. Like, I didn't expect this to be a Josh Sweat-centric episode, but somehow this has turned into, and I got to give credit to my man, Spend the Bar, bringing the heat this morning. We don't know enough about Josh Hart because he flies under the radar because such veteran talent around this team. But for as veteran-laden as this defense is, there is a lot of young, hungry talent. Josh Sweat, Nakobe Dean, Reed Blankenship. There is this, Milton Williams. Again, I always go back to Milton Williams. That's my guy. You all know that. If you watch the show enough, I can't stop talking about Milton Williams on a regular basis. I mean, that is my guy right there. But Josh Sweat should be put in that same category. In fact, so I'll be doing a show, Edge of Philly Sports, later this week. They do a over-under prediction show every year, and I've been on it a couple years now for that show. I'll be doing it again. Last year, I predicted 18.5 sacks for Josh Reddick, or Hassan Reddick, and I was laughed at, and he almost got it. So I've already got one bold prediction in mind. Josh Sweat might be one of my other big bold predictions this year. It might be. I just sent you a link to one of his celebrations. All right, I'll check that out later. Um, ACL scare for Josh Sweat. Okay. And then he also had, after the 2021 season, he had some kind of medical emergency that put him in a hospital. They didn't really release too many details about that. Like, Josh Sweat is a legit guy. And Josh Sweat, you guys just in the matter of the last 50 minutes, really only 30 of these 50 minutes that we were talking Josh Sweat, might have put him as one of my top guys to watch this year. It might be my top guys to watch. Maybe teams zone in. Yeah, and we talked about all these young guys, and something just made me think about teams zone in on Hassan Reddick. Teams might have to start zoning in on Josh Sweat now. And we haven't even mentioned, we mentioned Jalen Carter's name all the time on this defense. We lost Javon Hargrave, and that's all we lost on the front. But what about Nolan Smith? Nolan Smith at times was projected to go in the top 5-10 of the draft. We drafted him in the 30th pick of the first round. Like, let's not forget about how great Nolan Smith is. We were supposed to be talking about concerns. Now we're talking about all the hype. So literally, there's 10 points on this list. We got through 3 of them. 3 of them. And we're 56 minutes into a 75-minute show, and we got through 3 of 10 things. But now we're back to the positives, and no one talks about Nolan Smith. Like, Jalen Carter gets the hype. The guys on this team gets the hype. And I don't see Jalen Carter or Milton Williams. It's hard to be the leader of a defense when, I don't know, in the interior defensive line, the ends normally, the Brandon Grahams of the world, typically. Fletcher Cox is an exception, but the safeties, the linebackers, they tend to be the leaders. Can Nolan Smith be a leader? I don't know. But Nakobe Dean could be a leader on this defense for sure. If Josh Sweat's not the guy, I feel that Nakobe Dean could be a leader on this defense. Nolan Smith is a future leader of this D. Mature, smart, athletic kid. We talk about Tyler Steen because of the vital role he's got to play. We talk about all these different guys that are going to play vital roles this year. Nobody talks about Nolan Smith. It's like Josh West, Nolan Smith, like under the radar. The fact that we were able to draft a top 5 talent with the 30th pick in the draft, we say, Howie might have gotten the steal of the draft right there. I mean, Jalen Carter might be the best player of the draft, but he's got question marks. Nolan Smith might turn, when people do their redrafts 5 years later, Nolan Smith might be picked in the top 5 of most redrafts. I think that's very interesting. I love doing, I hate hindsight's 2020, but I love doing NBA or NFL redrafts. Like, I do. I love it. It's so fun to just look at a year and just redraft it. In fact, I mean, I've been trying to find time to do more shows on top of all the shows I already do. Maybe I should do a redraft show once a week, pick an NBA or NFL random season, and redraft it live on the air. I think that would be a very interesting show to do once a week, once every other week, whatever it may be. Maybe once golf season ends. Shout out to Ricky Fowler. First win in 1,600 days or whatever it was. Shout out. I cashed my Ricky Fowler 17-1 ticket. Big win. Big win this weekend for Ricky Fowler and all the golf betting analysts that backed him this week, including me. We'll be live tonight, Fairway to Heaven. We're back, me and Jason tonight, talking the John Deere Classic, recapping Ricky's big win. Make sure you tune in if you got the notifications turned on. That's how you know you will. 100% agree. Dean will be the leader. I mean, just to think, we talk about this. We got this Georgia defense, the Georgia Bulldogs' amazing defense now here. Nakobe Dean was probably the most underrated best player on that defense. I know Carter, Jordan Davis, the defensive line gets all the credit. Nakobe Dean was a monster on that defense. I wanted him drafted in the first round that year. I know Howie doesn't draft linebackers in the first round. The Eagles don't do that. Then he was there in the second round. I'm like, draft him. We didn't. And he got Cam Jurgens, I believe it was in the second round 2 years ago. And then he's still there in the third round. I'm like, if you can't pass up on this guy. And he took him. And he let him not sit because he played special teams. He filled in from time to time on defense. He had that one game when Edwards went out or White went out and he played. And he led the team in half a game in sacks, playing half a game. Nakobe Dean can play inside. He can play outside. He's small in stature for sure. He had some injury history in college. But, man, if he stays healthy, he is going to be a force. He'll be, we don't value linebacker, but all of a sudden we might end up in 2 years with one of the best linebackers in football on this team, without a shadow of a doubt to me. So, the age, that was the third point of this conversation today of concerns. And, again, we're going to pick this up tomorrow. 4th of July episode. We're going to be live. We're going to be talking 4th of July barbecues. So bring your barbecue best tomorrow. There'll be no cutoff time. Today, I got a cutoff at 9:30. I've got a catering order this morning to get to. But tomorrow, there's nothing. We're closed at the pizza shop on the 4th of July. And I got a special dedication tomorrow for the show. I don't dedicate shows often, but I will dedicate tomorrow's show. We'll get into that tomorrow, but we're going to pick this conversation up tomorrow. Because you know what? We could talk Sixers offseason all we want. We could talk the Phillies all we want, but football is right around the corner. It's got to get back to more than just one day a week of talking football. We got to. Because I miss talking football. And again, you guys are new to this show. Some of you are. Just wait till football season starts. Like this show during football season, man, it gets 10 times better. Just because football carries a morning show conversation so easily. But anyway, I like this conversation. It's not, the point of the article with concerns was about the age of these players, but bringing up the fact that all these older players that we have that are older are also the leaders of this team. So who steps up in the leadership role? And who do you look to have breakout seasons this year? Like I said, Josh Sweat could be a breakout candidate. Nakobe Dean is going to break out. He's going to have to break out. Milton Williams, I hope and expect to break out. But who else can break out on this defense? Is it going to be Reed Blankenship? Are the question marks about him? Terrell Edmonds is just a veteran. Is one of the rookies, Kellen Ringo or Sidney Brown, going to have a vital impact on the secondary? I am seriously concerned about the age and the injury history with our cornerbacks. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, and Avonte Maddox. We talk about safety. We talk about linebacker all the time. But depth at cornerback is a serious issue, in my opinion. Not if Avonte Maddox gets hurt. When Avonte Maddox gets hurt, are we going to trust Greedy Williams for 3 or 4 games? Are we going to trust Greedy Williams to actually even be able to stay healthy for those 3 or 4 games? Is Zach McPherson still on this team? I mean, he was drafted, in the 3rd round? It feels like a decade ago. It's only been a couple years, but it feels like ages. If Zach McPherson took the steps necessary, if he developed the way we expected or we were presented that he was going to be, we wouldn't have had to spend big money on bringing Darius Slay and or James Bradbury back. McPherson was drafted to be the cornerback of the future on this team. He hasn't done that. Just like Davian Taylor hasn't done anything to take a step forward, or Sean Bradley or any of the linebackers drafted in 6th, 7th, 8th rounds. Davian Taylor was like a 3rd or 4th round pick. But that was old Howie drafting him. When you draft guys from small schools that, something analytically says draft the guy. That was old Howie. Howie drafts guys from Alabama and Georgia, and that's about it. Which is smart, which I love. But Zach McPherson, concerns, things like that we talk about. His lack of development has to be massively concerning. It really does. It really should concern a lot of people that a guy at his height didn't develop. And we wouldn't be in this situation. So when we talk about concerns that we need a safety, that we need a linebacker, if I'm Howie Roseman, when the end of training camp rolls around, the middle of training camp, when rosters get cut from 98 to 75, I'm eyeing the cornerback waiver market. I'm looking at cornerbacks that get cut. Be like, is there a veteran cornerback or a young cornerback that I could develop? I mean, it's 2 years ago that we brought in over the course of the year 5 different cornerbacks that got cut, and none of them have developed. We talk about Jeff Stoutland and what he does with the offensive line. It's great. We talk about Brian Johnson, what he did with Jalen Hurts. It's great. Who's our defensive backs coach? Who's the one training these cornerbacks, grooming these young cornerbacks? Does Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni and company need to zone in on finding a better developer of our defensive backs? Because it's a concern. I mean, Bradbury and Slay are as elite. It's one of the best tandems in football. Both north of 30. Darius Slay's 32. Darius Slay gets banged up. James Bradbury could potentially regress a little bit this year. But still, it's still a great tandem. But there's nobody to step in their place if one goes down. And when they continue to get older, they're both here going to be here for 2 more years probably. There's nobody that's groomed to take that spot. Now, Kellen Ringo might be that guy. But based off the track record of the last couple of years of this team, Kellen Ringo might not develop. It's a concern. It's not even on the list of concerns that I wanted to talk about today. Again, like I said, we only got through 3 of them. And we don't get through all the rest of them tomorrow. Wednesday will be more football. We're literally going to try to start getting football in almost every day. Got to shout out real quick. We got to talk Phillies for a second. Shout out Nick Castellanos making the All-Star game this year. I got to give Nick Castellanos a little bit of, we talk about the Eagles and the Sixers and all these players and how they handle the fans and the criticism. Nick Castellanos last year got crushed, signed a big money contract, and just absolutely stinks. And he weathered the storm, and he is turning in an amazing season this year for the Phillies. Gets the All-Star nod. Borderline could have started. He didn't get to start, but as of now, the pitching staff hasn't been announced, so maybe you see Craig Kimbrell or somebody else make the pitching, staff. But Nick Castellanos, well-deserved MVP. I mean, he's hitting .316 now. He's got a .358 on base percentage, .516 slugging, 26 doubles, 12 home runs. He's driven in 54 runs. He plays excellent defense. Not enough talk about how good of a defensive player Nick Castellanos is. But, all these Eagles and Sixers, you see James Harden gets criticized. It's a struggle. Ben Simmons gets criticized. He shuts down. With the Eagles, Carson Wentz gets criticized, shuts down. Nick Castellanos struggles. And what's he do? He's turning in a borderline MVP caliber season. He's going to hit for 50 doubles, 25 home runs. He's going to drive in over 100 runs at this pace. Y'all laughed at me. I bet him $5, just $5, 100 to 1 to win the MVP this year. Why? Because I thought that Bryce Harper wasn't going to be back till July, and he was going to have to carry the team. Bryce Harper came back sooner, and he still had to carry the team. I bet the future on him. Everybody thought I was nuts. Like, why are you betting him? Bet JT or bet Bryce Harper or bet Trey Turner, who was like the second favorite for the MVP. And no, I'm going to have faith that Nick Castellanos is going to turn it around this year. And I said he wasn't going to hit 35 home runs or anything like that, and he's not. He'll probably land right around that 22 to 25 home runs. But between the doubles, the homers, the RBIs, dude, again, the defense, man. That guy should not be an average or plus defender. But, man, compared to what Kyle Schwarber does on the opposite corner, hell, even Brandon Marsh, who's supposed to be a good defender. I just think that not enough credit is given Nick Castellanos how he weathered the storm amongst the fan base, amongst the media. Those bigger name media people crushed him. I crushed him on this show. He's weathering the storm. And he's turned it around to a point where it's hard to say that he might be one of the most popular Phillies there are on the team right now. Especially with his son sitting in the front row all the time. His personality, his just laid-back personality, resonates with the fans really well. Man, you got to give some love to Nicky Castellanos and the well-deserved, all-star ballot, selection. Well-deserved. Well deserved. So, could you imagine looking at the Eagles? Let's say Jalen Carter stinks or bombs this year, our top pick, and the fans crush him, how he would handle it. Imagine if A.J. Brown, and we're going to get into the distractions as a concern. Maybe we'll get into that one tomorrow. Maybe we'll get into it on Wednesday. We went concern-free or distraction-free in 2022. But A.J. Brown, just say he starts dropping balls and starts, stinking it up. Or he doesn't run out some plays. How will he handle the distractions or the criticism from the media? The Sixers, Joel Embiid's already cryptically tweeting out there. like, Nick Castellanos handled it so well. Check out 2 years. Oh, I know Nick's numbers because that's why we gave him the big contract. Now, I did say, John, that his power home run outbursts that year were a little weren't a he's not a 30. I think he hit like 35 or 36 home runs the year you're talking about. He's not a 35 home run guy. He's never going to hit 40 home runs. But he's a doubles. He's a gap hitter. And, in a park like Citizen Bank Park, when you're a gap doubles hitter, if you put the right spin on the ball, you're going to get a few more home runs. I really did think 25 homers, 50 doubles was a very valid prediction this year. And he's on pace for it. I said over 100 RBIs. I said he was going to hit 300. I mean, hell, I think he's fourth or fifth in the league in hitting. At this point, he's top 10 in hits. He's top few in the league in extra base hits. I mean, you got to give him credit. Turning it, not just the turning it around. Like I said, we can give him credit for what he's doing on the field, but you got to give him credit for what he does off the field and how he handles himself. Alec Boehm last year was a prime example of how you handle your shit off the field in the right way. Well, Nick Castellanos is doing. We give Alec Boehm all the credit for him saying I effing hate this place, but then accepting the blame, facing it head on. Nick Castellanos faced it all head on, and look at him now. He's a borderline MVP. I'll have to go after the show and look at what his MVP odds are right now. But I guarantee they're better than 100-1 or lower than 100-1. There's no way he's 100-1 to win MVP still. I bet you he's in the top 5 or 6 in MVP, odds at this point. I'll check after the show for sure. But I think it's interesting. I think it's something that he needs to get credit for. And I think we're going to start the wrap up of the show right there. And I want to give you guys some little tips, or not tips, like little teases. These are some of the other things on this list of concerns that I read from Philly voice Jimmy Kempski. Injury luck. We were very, very lucky to stay healthy last year. The quarterbacks that we played last year weren't very good. Special teams being as bad as they were last year. These are just some of them. Let me see. What else is on this list? Their schedule is tough. I think it's a little overblown, that part, but we'll get into it. They're going to get everyone's best. I hate that. I have something really. I could spend an hour just on that one comment. Shouldn't every team always give every team their best? They don't, but they do. The adversity, and that's something that I love to talk about. The adversity that they did not face and they could. And then, of course, the final concern on this list is no one's repeated as NFC East champion since 2004. That is just some of the things. He's still that much of a long shot, so he's still 100-1. Man, guys, go drop a couple bucks. He was 100. I got him 100-1 on DraftKings. So that's brutal that he's still that far. That is no respect. What's his name say? I get no respect around here. Yeah, that wasn't as good as my $1 Million Man laugh. I know, but we'll get into it. Everybody say, I can't believe he's still 100-1. Adam, I know you bet. Go drop a couple bucks on it, man. He probably won't get there, but maybe FanDuel, as he gets closer to the end of the season, might offer you a cash out on it. I don't know. I might go double down my bet, honestly. If he's still 100-1 on DraftKings, I might go double down. Might as well. But we got to wrap it up. So we'll get back to concerns tomorrow. 4th of July, barbecue talk. We'll start regular time, 8:30 tomorrow. But there will be no hard out time. We'll go as long as we got to tomorrow. And we'll continue talking these concerns. We'll talk some Phillies tomorrow. We'll continue Sixers talk if you want to tomorrow. Everything is on the table tomorrow for the 4th of July. But for Philadelphia Sports Network, I am Phil Stiefel. We got to wrap it up for the day. Everybody have a great day. Make sure you like this video. 11 likes on YouTube, 2 likes on Facebook. Likes equal views. Likes equal more hours on the air. Likes equal more money down the line. Stuff like that. So everybody have a great day. Enjoy. It's going to be hot, humid, rainy maybe later today. Those storms yesterday were awful. So hopefully everybody's all right. Everybody have a great Monday. We'll be back tomorrow for the 4th of July special show. Same on DraftKings. Damn. Double down, Adam. Make the bet. Make the bet. I would probably make it on FanDuel if I was you. I have no money on FanDuel because FanDuel does offer more cash outs. So you might be able to make that bet and then get at least something out of it. John, that makes my day. Thank you very much. I try to have fun on this show. And if you're not here tomorrow, I'll miss you tomorrow, but we'll be here all day tomorrow. Tomorrow's a special day for me. Not in a good way, in a bad day. I'll get into it tomorrow. So tomorrow's gonna be a special dedication show. So everybody have a great day here today. We'll see you tomorrow here on the 4th of July episode for Philadelphia Sports Network. I am Phil Stiefel. Let me take that comment off the screen while I play the exit video. Here we go. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you follow, you tell a friend. Trending in the AM, the only morning show where your opinion matters. Y'all have a good day.